Now, in addition to the presidential race, Colorado U.S. Senate race will also be closely watched. It could determine which party controls the U.S. Senate.
Our political specialist Shaun examines that race and more in her weekly reality check.
The dust is settled from the primary election, but if you're still not clear what the takeaway is, we have our analysts here, Democrat Mike Dino, Republican Dick Wadhams, to help us sort this whole thing out. The big surprise, the 3rd Congressional District, where bar-owning, gun-toting political newcomer Lauren Boebert knocked off 5-term incumbent Scott Tipton. She framed Tipton as not conservative enough, not tough enough, not Trump enough. But at the state and local level, we saw many far-right candidates being beaten by those more moderates. So, Dick, what does this say about where the Republican Party is at?
It's in chaos. There is a great deal of turmoil in our party right now, Shaun, and you saw it in all these primaries across the state. There was a kind of revenge of the moderates that happened in this election because a lot of moderate candidates or slightly right-of-center candidates defeated the more conservative candidates in legislative and county commissioner primaries. The 3rd district was unique. I think Scott Tipton got caught sleeping at the wheel. The problem for Lauren Boebert now is that she moves from a primary electorate to a general election, and the campaign will move to very fundamental 3rd district issues: oil and gas, rural development, water, agriculture. And she's going to have to talk about those things now.
On the Democratic side, the Senate primary between former Governor John Hickenlooper and former Speaker of the State House Andrew Romanoff was a blowout. We thought it might be closer. So, Mike, Romanoff lost even in those real liberal parts of the state, like here in Boulder County, to Hickenlooper. So what does that say about the Democratic Party, especially in light of the fact that Sanders won the presidential primary here?
The big factor, the unaffiliated voter. I think unaffiliated voters, because 4 years ago we voted to allow them to participate in the primaries, that they've come in and moderated both parties when you have these primaries. And while they're not voting to a huge degree in terms of their numbers, in the Senate race they were 250,000. And I think we talked about previously that was a key for John Hickenlooper's victory, is those unaffiliated voters coming out and supporting him, which I think they did. And I also think they've helped moderate some of the other races we've seen around the state in both parties. And they'll be a big factor in the general election.
We have 2 more moderate candidates in our general election for Senate. We've got Republican incumbent Cory Gardner against the Democrat John Hickenlooper in this race. And when Gardner won the Senate in 2014, beating incumbent Mark Udall, Udall made the campaign about abortion access, and it failed. But this year we have a state ballot measure that would ban abortion after 22 weeks. Do we think that the abortion issue is going to be more of a pivotal one in this race?
Polling shows across the country, and actually in Colorado, the polling I've seen, is that people do oppose late-term abortions, and that's what we're talking about. Even people who, by nature, are pro-choice are very uneasy about late-term abortions. The question is, can that campaign convey that that's where they want to end this debate, or if the opponents of this measure can convince voters that this is a Trojan horse that will lead to other anti-abortion measures. I don't think Cory Gardner will make this a major issue in his campaign. I frankly don't think Hickenlooper will either.
Yeah, Mike, we do have a different makeup, though, of our U.S. Supreme Court, and a lot of people feel like that really does now put abortion on the front burner. So what do you think?
I think that the special interests that are around abortion are going to make it an issue where they'll carve out a niche for some of the voters that'll support both candidates. I don't think we'll see the candidates spending their money on it. And I do think in this state, women particularly are going to be influenced by the issue to some degree, particularly if for some reason they're not totally appalled by Donald Trump, then this one will be another motivating factor for them to get involved.
Yeah, I think more than abortion, Donald Trump is going to be the big factor in this U.S. Senate race, for sure. All right, well, that's all the time we have for this edition of our weekly reality check. We'll see you next week.
Always interesting.
Yeah, sure is.
Thanks to Shaun.